Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 through 42, and chapter 13 verse 17 through chapter 14 verse 31. Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron that night and said, "Get up, get away from my people. Both you and the Israelites, go, serve the Lord, as you have said. Take also your flocks and your herds, as you have said, and go. But also bless me." The Egyptians urged the people to leave the land quickly, for the Egyptians said, "We are all going to die." The Israelites took their dough before it was leavened. They carried their kneading bowls, which were wrapped in their clothing, on their shoulders. The Israelites did just as Moses had said, and they asked the Egyptians for articles of silver, articles of gold, and clothing. The Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians so that they let the Israelites have what they asked for. In this way they plundered the Egyptians. The Israelites set out from Ramesses to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, besides their families. A mixed group of non-Israelites also went up along with them, as well as a large amount of livestock, both flocks and herds. The Israelites baked the dough which they had brought out of Egypt into unleavened loaves, for it had not been leavened, because they had been driven out of Egypt and could not delay. They also had not prepared any provisions for themselves. The amount of time that the Israelites lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of 430 years, to the very day, all of the Lord's divisions went out from the land of Egypt. It was a night that the Lord kept vigil to bring them out of the land of Egypt. This same night is dedicated to the Lord. All the Israelites are to keep vigil throughout their generations. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by the way that goes to the land of the Philistines, although it was more direct, for God said, "If the people face war, they may change their minds and return to Egypt." So God led the people by the way that goes through the wilderness toward the Red Sea. The Israelites went up from the land of Egypt in battle formation. Moses also took the bones of Joseph with him, because Joseph had made the Israelites swear an oath. Joseph had said, "God will surely come to your aid. Then you must bring up my bones with you from Egypt." They set out from Succoth and camped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. The Lord went in front of them in a pillar of cloud by day to lead them on their way and in a pillar of fire by night to give them light. In this way they could travel by day and by night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night never left its place in front of the people. Then the Lord spoke to Moses. "Tell the Israelites to turn back and camp in front of Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea. They are to camp by the sea, facing Baal-zephon. Then Pharaoh will say about the Israelites, 'They are wandering around in the land. The wilderness has shut them in.' I will harden Pharaoh's heart so that he will pursue them, and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and his entire army. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord." So that is what the Israelites did. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials had a change of heart concerning the people. They said, "What have we done? We have let Israel go. They will not serve us anymore." So Pharaoh prepared his chariot and took his troops with him. He also took 600 of the best chariots and all the other chariots of Egypt with officers over all of them. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so that he pursued the Israelites. The Israelites were going out defiantly. The Egyptians pursued them. All the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, his charioteers, and his army caught up with them where they were camping by the sea beside Pi-hahiroth, which faces Baal-zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. The Israelites were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you took us to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Wasn't this what we said to you in Egypt, 'Leave us alone. Let us serve the Egyptians'? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and see the salvation from the Lord, which he will perform for you today. For the Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You must wait quietly." The Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to set out." As for you, lift up your staff, stretch out your hand over the sea, and divide the sea so that the Israelites can go through the middle of the sea on dry ground. I myself will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go into the sea after them, and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and his entire army, through his chariots and his charioteers. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord, when I have gained glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his charioteers. Then the angel of God, who was going in front of the Israelite forces, moved and went behind them. The pillar of cloud moved from in front of them and stood behind them. It went between the Egyptian forces and the Israelite forces. The cloud was dark on one side, but it lit up the night on the other. Neither group approached the other all night long. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all night long the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned the sea into dry land. The waters were divided. The Israelites went into the middle of the sea on dry ground. The waters were like a wall for them on their right and on their left. The Egyptians pursued them, and all of Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his charioteers went after them into the middle of the sea. During the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down on the Egyptian forces from the pillar of fire and cloud. Then he confused the Egyptian forces. He jammed their chariot wheels, and they had difficulty driving them. The Egyptians said, "We must flee from Israel, for the Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, and the waters will come back over the Egyptians, over their chariots and their charioteers." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea returned to its normal place. While the Egyptians were fleeing from it, the Lord threw the Egyptians into the middle of the sea. The waters came back and covered the chariots and the charioteers, the entire army of Pharaoh that went into the sea after the Israelites. Not even one of them survived. But the Israelites went through the middle of the sea on dry land, and the waters were like a wall for them on their right and on their left. On that day the Lord saved Israel from the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Israel saw the mighty hand which the Lord put into action against the Egyptians, and the people feared the Lord and believed in the Lord and in Moses, his servant. Exodus chapter 16, verses 1 through 35 and chapter 17, verses 1 through 7. On the 15th day of the second month after they had left the land of Egypt, the entire Israelite community set out from Elim and came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. The entire Israelite community grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the Lord's hand in the land of Egypt, when we sat around pots of meat and ate as much food as we wanted. But now you have brought us out into this wilderness to have this whole community die of hunger." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Watch what I will do. I will rain down bread from heaven for you, and the people will go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way I will test whether they will follow my instructions or not. On the 6th day they will prepare what they bring in, and it will be twice as much as they gather on the other days." So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, "At evening you will know that it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, and in the morning you will see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your constant grumbling against the Lord. Who are we that you should grumble against us?" Moses said, "Now the Lord will give you meat to eat in the evening and as much bread as you want in the morning, because the Lord has heard your grumbling against him. Who are we? Your grumbling is not against us but against the Lord." Then Moses said to Aaron, "Tell the entire Israelite community, 'Come before the Lord, because he has heard your grumbling.'" As Aaron spoke to the entire Israelite community, they turned toward the wilderness, and suddenly the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. The Lord spoke to Moses, "I have heard the grumbling of the Israelites. Say to them, 'At evening you will eat meat, and in the morning you will eat bread until you are full. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God.'" So in the evening quail came and covered the camp, and in the morning a layer of dew surrounded the camp. When the layer of dew was gone, there were thin flakes on the surface of the wilderness, thin as frost on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they said to one another, "What is it?" because they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, "This is the bread which the Lord has given to you as food to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. All of them are to gather as much of it as they need to eat. You are to take an omer per person based on the number of people each of you has in your tents." The Israelites did this, and some gathered more, some less. When they measured it with an omer, the one who gathered more did not have too much, and the one who gathered less did not have too little. All of them gathered as much as they needed to eat. Moses said to them, "No one is to leave any of it until morning." However, they did not listen to Moses. Some of them left part of it until morning, and it became full of worms and stank. So Moses was angry with them. They gathered it each morning. All of them gathered as much as they needed to eat. When the sun grew hot, it melted away. On the 6th day they gathered twice as much food, 2 omers for each person, and all the leaders of the community came and reported to Moses. He said to them, "This is what the Lord has said. Tomorrow is a complete rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you want to bake, and boil what you want to boil, but set aside for yourselves all the rest of it to be kept until morning." So they set it aside until morning as Moses commanded, and it did not stink, and there were no worms in it. Moses said, "Today eat whatever is left over, for today is a Sabbath to the Lord. Today you will not find any around the camp. 6 days you will gather it, but on the 7th day, the Sabbath, there will not be any." On the 7th day some of the people went out to gather it, but they did not find any. The Lord said to Moses, "How long will you people refuse to keep my commandments and my instructions? Look, the Lord has given you the Sabbath. Therefore on the 6th day he will give you 2 days' worth of bread. All of you are to stay where you are. None of you are to leave your places on the 7th day." So the people rested on the 7th day. The house of Israel called it manna. It looked like white coriander seed, and it tasted like wafers made with honey. Moses said, "This is what the Lord has commanded. A full omer of it is to be kept throughout your generations so that they may see the bread which I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out of the land of Egypt." Moses said to Aaron, "Take a container, and put a full omer of manna in it. Place it before the Lord, to be kept throughout your generations." To obey the Lord's command to Moses, Aaron placed an omer before the testimony to be preserved. The Israelites ate manna for 40 years, until they came to a land that was inhabited. They ate manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. The entire Israelite community set out on their journey from the wilderness of Sin as the Lord had commanded. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. So the people quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Moses said to them, "Why are you quarreling with me? Why are you testing the Lord?" But the people were thirsty for water there, so they grumbled against Moses. They said, "Why did you ever bring us up out of Egypt to let us, our children, and our livestock die of thirst?" Moses cried out to the Lord, "What shall I do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord said to Moses, "Go in front of the people, and take the elders of Israel with you. Also take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. Watch me. I will stand there in front of you on the rock in Horeb. You are to strike the rock. Water will come out of it, and the people will drink." Moses did that in the sight of the elders of Israel. He named the place Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled, and because they tested the Lord by saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?"